Cut by cut, pull by pull, these Colombian workers are helping to grow the country's billion-dollar palm oil industry. The demand for this odd-looking fruit has been soaring worldwide. That's because its oil is used in just about everything, from food to toothpaste, soaps, perfumes, and biodiesel fuel. For a country like Colombia, whose rural economy has been ravaged by 50 years of civil war, palm oil is seen by many as a savior. Production has doubled in the past 10 years, it has created 100,000 jobs, and the large agribusiness companies that dominate the market have been a vehicle for modernizing the economy. But opponents of the industry say a mounting body of evidence has shown that while the country suffers from the Civil War violence, the palm oil industry has greatly benefited from it. From taking advantage of displaced farmers to expanding their land through troubled deals, and even associations with paramilitary groups. To understand palm oil's rise in Colombia, you have to look at the country's long-running civil war. It's a complex four-way battle between government forces, criminal gangs, leftist FARC rebels, and right-wing paramilitary groups that were formed to fight those rebels. 220,000 have been killed, and more than 5 million have been internally displaced, a number second only to Syria. One of the darker chapters in Colombia's civil war happened in a remote town called Mapiripán. Now from the air, large palm plantations can be seen covering thousands of acres, but that wasn't always the case. In the 80s, there used to be illegal coca growers. FARC rebels pushed into town and extorted these farmers for protection, which became a lucrative source of income. The dirt road village soon became a target for right-wing paramilitary groups that were organized to fight the rebels.
Eso fue del 15 al 20 de julio de 1997, cuando llegaron los paramilitares a Mapiripán y entonces empezaron a matar a la gente. Esta, la finca.
Cecilia Lozano's dairy farm was just outside Mapiripán at the time. She remembers when the brutal paramilitary group known as United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia flew into the town and killed dozens using machetes and chainsaws.
Pero todos los días llegaba gente, ay, que mataron a no sé quién, ay, que mataron el otro, ay, que había un señor allá en el río. No importaba, o sea, lo que más importaba era que a todos nos dolía lo que nos estaba sucediendo, que no era tan fácil uno pensar de que mataron el vecino, que mataron gente conocida del pueblo. Para nosotros era impresionante, impresionante, porque parecía para nosotros que era el fin del mundo.
Nearly 50 people in all were killed. An investigation later revealed that the attack was coordinated with government forces. Since the massacre, Lozano and more than 10,000 residents have fled. Many lost their land, either because they never had a formal title, or because paramilitary groups forced owners to sell at a discounted rate. In some cases, land titles were even forged.
Yo volví después de unos años, y cuando ya vi muchos sembrados de palma, y muchos sembrados de palma, y entonces me pude dar cuenta de que el despojo y todo es para digamos, para sacarnos de nuestra tierra.
Realmente, ¿cuál es la tierra que está libre de historia en Colombia? ¿Existe?
Carlo Vigna is the director for Polygrow, a multinational company based in Europe that now owns about 17,000 acres of palm outside of Mapiripán. He says that now under their stewardship, the town is thriving, having created 500 jobs.
Todo lo que había era lo que en Colombia normalmente representa los malos, ¿no? Entonces, muchísimo narcotráfico, nada de ingresos, nada de empleo, nada de nada. Pero obviamente allí percibí que era un lugar muy hermoso y con grande potencialidad.
Vigna is adamant that Polygrow is careful not to buy contested land. But a recent report by the federal government cites what it calls irregularities in some of Polygrow's land acquisitions. The area where they bought land was supposed to be off limits. It was part of a government program that provided land to small farmers intended specifically to prevent land consolidations like this one. And according to the report, the person who sold Polygrow the property acquired it for so little, the value jumped more than 12,000% in only 10 years. Colombian officials say they're still investigating the company's acquisitions and those of others who accumulated large holdings in conflict zones. In the wake of all the violence, the country has set up an agency dedicated to sorting out land claims. Andrea Liscano oversees land restitution for the Department of MEDA, the region where Mapiripán is located.
Para el META creo que un registro como de 70.000 víctimas del conflicto armado. Para solicitudes de restitución tenemos 4.900.
While the offices have tied a handful of cases of land displacement to palm producers, there are thousands of cases still pending that are unable to be investigated because the areas are too dangerous for inspectors to enter without a military escort.
Mira, este es el departamento del META. Entonces, esto verde es todo lo que la unidad ya ha trabajado.
Ajá.
Todo esto
¿Dónde está
verde.
Mapiripán?
Mapiripán es esto.
All those white spaces, too violent to investigate. With so many pending cases, the government placed a moratorium on land transactions in effect for the Mapiripán area. But it's not just there. The palm industry boom has occurred in several regions where paramilitary violence has been prevalent. In the Pacific coastal region of Choco, 10-year prison sentences were given out to 3 men for conspiring to forcibly displace farmers on behalf of palm plantations, and there are a dozen others facing similar charges.
It's difficult to believe when people say that you are displacing farmers in that area, in general, I would say that's not true. Social forces saying, oh no, those are responsible for all our problems. No, the problems were there for decades before. What we're trying to do is changing that situation.
Proponents of the palm oil industry acknowledge that there have been problems, but they say as a sector, they are actually the solution to the conflict by helping to develop the economy. One example they point to is a program that finds work for former combatants.
The rural areas is full of informality in Colombia. And when a sector like the oil palm come into a territory with a plantation, it's an organized business with good entrepreneurial practices. They hire formal labor, so it helps formalize the relations that are taking place in that territory.
Despite all the violence, Colombia has maintained the fastest growing economy in South America. And now there's even more optimism for the future. After a 50-year civil war, FARC and government leaders are in negotiations that have taken the country closer than ever before to a peace deal. The hope is that a ceasefire will trigger a new era of prosperity and make rural areas like Mapiripán even more attractive to investment. But for people like Lozano, any action would be too late. She has already lost her land and husband to the violence. He disappeared more than a decade ago, presumably killed by one of the armed groups in the area.
No sé, yo extraño también pues que yo tenía mi hogar estable, tenía a mi esposo, tenía a todos mis hijos juntos. Hoy en día no está él, mi hijo pequeño está para lejos, entonces pues no es fácil.